They let the customer drag them into a price conversation right away before they've spent any time trying to understand the why. And that's the difference with the advisor. The advisor is obsessed with why. Obsessed with why you want to sell this house and what you're going to do with the money. They will ask so many questions.
You're listening to Let Me Speak to a Manager with Frank Cava and Ian Mathews.
What a crock of shit.
Yeah, that was hot mic, Sam.
It's 30 minutes away. I'll be there in 10.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Frankie!
Ian, you handsome son of a bitch.
Frankie, I am beating you in March Madness for the Cava pool right now, even though you submitted 15 different brackets and I submitted only one. Mine is still better.
You submitted 2. IJ's in there too, I saw. And then
IJ's getting his ass kicked. He's not doing as well as I am.
Yes. I also would like to note that Ian is wearing a beautiful Baltic brown, Java brown type shirt today. Java brown
Baltic.
is having Baltic or Java brown. It's having a moment. So it's making a resurgence. If you're ever looking for fashion tips, Ian and I are clearly your guides.
Frank more than me for sure. There's no doubt. I do 80% of my shopping on the Nike and Under Armour apps.
I feel as if I've been in this sweatshirt for basically all winter and fall, but it's one of my faves.
Hey, I'm curious on your March Madness, because you put it together and it's your company and a lot of those people are there. Is it awkward if you win and you pocket all those people's money?
I mean, I put in
I know you never win, so that's probably a fool's errand.
I seized in the pot with $250. So I think I've been doing it for 5 years. I think I've won it once. I became in second place once. So it's basically my own money I'm getting back. So nobody.
Yeah, it's gonna be real awkward when I take your money this year, though. That's gonna be a good time.
Michigan's not winning at all.
Gonna really enjoy that. Well, we know Florida's not, so that's your champ and almost
Florida's
all your
won it
backup.
more recently than Michigan has.
Yeah, that's true.
They are still the defending champs.
That's true. Frankie, when I say the word vendor, just spit out what comes to mind. Who do you think of? What industry?
About is Doritos out of a vending machine is what I think of. Man, I miss the old days when I used to eat Doritos from a vending machine. But
that's hilarious. It always comes down to food with you and I. If you would ask me vendor, I would have said hot dog vendor, beer vendor. I think about baseball. I think about the guy walking around with the hot dogs going, hot dog here, hot dog here.
My favorite is a sausage vendor, and I like a good spicy sausage.
I bet you do at Fenway Park. But the topic we want to talk about today is what's the difference between a vendor and an advisor? There are 2 different kinds of salespeople, and there's one that's more transactional, more commodity based, hot dogs, sausages, beers, Doritos. That's a vending machine. That's a vendor. And truth is, I kind of glad you brought up vending machine versus vendor. That makes sense that you would bring that up because some products are so good that you don't need a salesperson. You need a little coin slot. People are going to go buy Doritos or Mountain Dews from a vending machine with or without the brain of a salesperson there to help out. Right. So that's kind of vending machine. But I think there are, in highly paid professional sales organizations, there are people who act more like vendors than they do advisors. And so I'll just define vendor as loosely as I can, but a vendor sells commodities. A vendor has products that don't really differentiate. They very focused on providing features, putting together quotes. And when I worked at GE, this going back 25 years, but GE had, 25 different business lines. And there were often times where I would bump into other GE sales reps calling on the same big customer. So I did B2B sales. And my business was very engineering based. So we even called ourselves the solutions business. It was without a doubt the best place for me to start my career as a salesperson, because every single quote that I needed an engineer just to run a quote. I couldn't even put a quote together because you needed someone smart enough to solve the problem, then put a price together on what you were solving. And so when I would go in, I would be talking to someone running a steel mill who would say, you know what, our efficiency's not been as good lately. We've lost 2 or 3%. on our main hot strip mill. It's, and I could just sit and ask, well, what does that cost you? And they would do the math and millions, right? And you'd listen and okay, so what are we trying to solve for? What would we like to get it to? What would optimal? And I would ask all these questions and I would have to dig into the pain. And then I would say, okay, I got to talk to an engineering team. We're going to put together a couple of different options that can get your efficiency back up. And if I could do that, and I would do all of this, but they've already told me this is costing me whatever, $3 million a week. So if I'm putting a proposal together for $2 million to go optimize their drive systems, it was the easiest conversation of, we've already done the hard work. I've already found out what the return is on this. This is a 3-week return. Are you kidding? Are we not going to do this? So it was easy for me. But then there was a business called GE Supply. And GE Supply called on the same customer, but they sold small motors. They sold switchgear. They sold electrical components, pretty much replacement parts, Frankie. So if we put in a big system for you, parts would fail. So you would, it'd be like you going to Home Depot, Frank, to find a part for your HVAC system. So these guys were very different than me, and I could see it right away in that the sales guys did all their quotes. They ran all their quotes. They were always quoting, whereas in maybe I would do 5 or 6 quotes in a whole month, hoping to get 1 or 2 of them. They would do hundreds of quotes, smaller item deals. But when I would listen to them talk to customers, they weren't asking questions like I was. The customer was asking them questions. Do you have this in stock? Do you have this in stock? Do you have this at a little bit smaller voltage? Do you have this? Yeah, we can. Let me run that. And what's this price? What's this price? Can I get a volume discount? It was all price, specs, and features. Whereas I almost never talked price because I didn't even know what the price would be, because I was going to put a proposal together for something that had never been quoted before. It was unique to that customer. And so I got a real good bird's eye view from learning from the other guys in the solution sales. It was more of a consulting business of what the difference between an advisor and a vendor was. GE Supply were vendors. Everything was priced. Their margins were just rail thin, super competitive, versus my business where we had really high margins, but less of a hit rate.
So in my line of work growing up at Ryan Homes, it wasn't so much vendor versus consultant. It was salesman versus order taker. And what you come into in certain parts of the market or with certain communities is you get to just be an order taker. And it was basically like everybody at NVR was very self-confident, a little bit arrogant. The people in the models weren't the ones making the magic. The people buying the land and doing the development and kind of getting the positioning were the ones who were really doing all the work. And now that you kind of have a bird's eye view on it, but what you would get into is you pay attention to like, okay, this person's in a candy shop. They're literally just taking orders. And this person has to be more nuanced in their sales approach. And what it comes down to is if you don't have something that's underpriced and the market doesn't see it immediately, you need a little bit of nuance in how you actually sell. So the difference between being a salesperson versus an order taker is maybe you're priced appropriately, or maybe it doesn't satisfy every need. You have to overcome more objections. So one of the main reasons that I left Charlottesville and moved to Richmond, there was a personal reason. It was a really small place to be single, but it was a really hard place to run my market because it's a college town. And a college town is incredibly cyclical based upon when people move in and out for the university. So if you missed the spring market, the summer market was absolutely terrible. There was an okay fall market, but it was a very cyclical type of a business or type of a market. So in Richmond, if I price something 10% below market, no matter how bad the market is, people notice it and it goes under contract very quickly. And I usually have competing offers. In Charlottesville, you could list something below market and it wouldn't sell quickly because the market was just asleep and it didn't notice it. So you have to know kind of where you are and understand what it is and how you're going to service that market. And then how you will work on the sales side is, do you become a salesperson, an order taker, a vendor, or a consultant? And today, what I talked about it with my team is I think the market is scared. I think people are just nervous about what's going on. And you can say, look, people have been scared forever. There's always uncertainty in the market, but gas prices are up, interest rates are up. We're at the back end of like 6 really kind of tough years since COVID. I think most people are getting squeezed if you're in the bottom part of the K-shaped economy. So when you really kind of look at it, nobody wants to be sold to because their aptitude for and their ability to be sold to is very low. So what you have to do is you kind of have to lower the gloves and just say, how about I come and consult with you and talk about what we could offer? And Ian and I literally came up to the same word today using consulting, and how you can get that to be a more approachable way to enter into a conversation with somebody, because it's less offensive and it's more acceptable right now based upon people's nerves.
I even get some of this in 5-on-4 group, Frankie, where people will ask, what's the price of leadership essentials? And I'm always uncomfortable giving it to them, because I'm like, I don't even know if leadership essentials is right for you. Who's going to be in the class? What are you hoping to achieve with them? What do you want? What if it's successful, what impact will it have on your business? I don't know what you're solving for, and you're asking me for a price. I'm not even sure if that's the right product for you, or if you just want some one-on-one coaching or something different.
I love this story. A friend of mine was walking on a dock, and he went up to somebody that was like on a yacht, like a private cruise ship, and it said, it was pretty obvious that you could rent it for the day. And he goes, how much is this? And he goes, if you're asking me that question, it's too expensive.
You can't afford it. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. But I think when you say, I think we might disagree a little bit in that. I think there's always a lot of noise in the market. I think people are always worried about a lot. There might be more this year than others. People definitely worry more when you're teetering on a recession. People worry more when rates are high, but there's always worry. I think right now there's more noise than normal. The news flow has been very noisy. You've got the Middle East, you've got interest rates going up, you have prices dropping. That makes people nervous. So if you're selling real estate, people are worried, am I catching a falling knife, or should I wait? Are we at the bottom? Are we getting any closer? Should I wait until rates are better? There's just noise, and a lot of it is coming to your iPhone. When you were selling, you had to go to the newspaper to get a lot of that information, or maybe you saw it on the news, or you saw it in a different place. But I think in general, customers are overinformed and underserved. I think because they think they're experts, because they're pounded with information all the time, some of it good, some of it not good. They come in, let's say you're selling real estate, and that's what Frank does, and that's just about everyone I work with does. People come in and they're experts on interest rates, and they're experts on the economy, and they're experts on where home prices are going, because I watch this YouTube channel that says prices are going to drop another 10%. And everyone comes in thinking they're an expert, and they get focused on a lot of things that have nothing to do with why they're there looking to buy a house in the first place. They've got tons of information, no clarity. That's probably a better way to say it. Low on clarity, high on information.
I think it depends on what part of the market you serve. So I serve two distinct parts of the market. I tend to buy on the lower part of the K-shaped economy, and I tend to sell to the top side of the K-shaped economy. Discretionary, move up, people who are paying cash, like those are my best buyers. Like we're selling a massive house. It's our best house we've ever sold from a price perspective. Literally the people paid cash. They we'll take it now. We don't want to lose it to somebody else. It's perfect. Like it's such a refreshing place to be, but it's rare for us. But on the other end of the curve, what you deal with in a lot of instances is people who just don't understand the problem or how to assess it. And what they'll tell you is they'll give you kind of a bullshit answer without realizing it's a bullshit answer. They'll be like, I think I should get $200,000 for my house. And I said, well, I can't pay a penny over 170. And we're arguing over that $30,000 difference instead of arguing about the equity that you get if you actually did sell the house, or the freedom it would give you, or the other side of it. And what we landed on with this is there's two things that we did today to kind of overcome this. First, I'll ask you a question. A lead gen guy who set 50 appointments in a year, how much real estate, like in dollar volume, would you think he's touched in a year? Just ballpark it.
50 in a year?
He set 50 appointments.
Okay. And when you say touched, real estate touched.
So use it from the perspective of he set 50 appointments in 12 months. That real estate, those 50 appointments, how much dollar value does that equate to?
20 million?
$15 million. I asked everybody on my team that, and someone said $2 million, $1.5 million. He has touched $15 million worth of real estate. Rob, who you know, who's been with me forever. I did the math with Rob today. How much would you guess Rob has touched in his 10 years with us?
So I would guess 200 million.
I would think it's somewhere between 250 and 400 million conservatively. Like I came up with 350. So this is why this matters. Someone's calling you. My business is flipped for most people, right? Like I'm a buyer. That's how I actually get a sale. You're selling. But let's use my example for a second. Someone calls in on for one of our ads and we're having a conversation and we're trying to get an appointment. And we're trying to get one of our acquisition managers or our closers into the home to assess it and see if there's a situation where we can buy it for a number that makes sense for everybody. But to get over that hump, to set that appointment is really challenging. So what we have to do is we have to add value about what's coming, and we have to say it in a way of a few things. Unlike the yacht, these people do worry about price. They ask, like, if someone's coming out to my house, do I have to pay for that? No, there's no obligation. There's no money up front from you. Second, is it going to be high pressure? And it isn't going to be high pressure. We're going to offer an opportunity to present what we think, and we'll give you an offer. But if you want it or you don't want it, that's up to you. You get to make that choice. But what my team was forgetting to do was this. Someone who has a house to sell has a $200,000 or $300,000 asset. My least experienced person has 50 times that experience. So what you need to say is, look, in 1 year, I've touched $15 million. Why? It gives me the ability to prove to you that even though I'm just a cold call guy, I literally have touched $15 million worth of real estate. So I'm an expert. But I'm not expert enough to come to your home. The person who I'm going to send out on the low end has touched 200 million, and on the high end has touched over $500 million in real estate throughout their career. Wouldn't it be valuable to look at your home through their eyes and allow us to show you what we see and why we see it? And we're the biggest buyer in our marketplace for a very good reason. We have really experienced people who come at these things, and we're going to just show you the facts, and then you get to make a decision. But it goes from a high pressure situation to we're going to inform you about what the market has going on.
That's really good. So you skipped ahead of me a little bit on the agenda, but I like where you're going on this. So what you're doing is when you ask me questions of how much real estate they touch, you are trying to establish trust. I need to know
trust.
If a vendor, I don't need to trust. What's the price when you delivering it? Whatever, right? I need a hot dog vendor. I don't need to trust you. I trust the Detroit Tigers organization that they're not going to poison me with a bad hot dog. Just give me the hot dog. You are trying to get someone to believe that your people are advisors, that they're consultants. And there's a formula for this. The formula for trust in sales is credibility plus reliability plus intimacy, and then divide that by self-orientation. And I'll explain that. Credibility is, do you know the market? Do you understand the product? And do you understand the finances? And also, do you understand the situation of the demographic who typically buys from you? That's credibility. So when Frank does that, we used to practice an elevator pitch. And a good elevator pitch to me, it has to be unique to you. It has to be short. That's an elevator pitch. But also, not only unique and short, it needs to make the customer feel like they hit the jackpot. And so by saying I've done $350 million in real estate, I'm not trying to make you seem small. I'm trying to make you feel like you're in good hands. And I'll give you a great example of this for the elevator pitch. If you and I, Frankie, were to go skydiving and we were going to do tandem with, right? And I haven't skydived.
I got a great skydive. Go.
I haven't done it in 20 years. But if we were to go and you and I are both going up in the plane and we're making small talk because we're nervous and we're strapped onto two guys that are going to jump out of a plane with us. And I ask my guy, like, hey, how long you been doing this? And he's like, well, I'm trainee. I'm learning from Bob here. This is my third jump. It's my second day here. They finally let me do this by myself. And then I'm overhearing Frank, and he asked Bob, how long you been doing this? And he's like, oh man, 10 years. I started the company. This is my 40,000th jump. I would be like, I will pay whatever if we can switch our tandem guys. Like I will do whatever because of that credibility that he brings of, oh, you've done that many? Have you ever lost anyone? Haven't lost one yet. And if you say, I haven't lost one of my three yet, I don't know if I'm as excited to hear that. So from a credibility perspective, when I say trust is important on an elevator pitch, we would always coach our sales reps to tell people, like if you're a loan officer, I've been doing this for 7 years. In my time here, I've done over $200 million in volume. I've helped over 2,000 people get into a Ryan home. We would have them say that. And that would make, and now if you were brand new, we would have to come up with something else. Maybe use the houses that you worked on as a processor. Maybe use, but the beauty of working for a big company is very quickly your volume numbers start to impress. Frank's a small company, so his volume numbers, it takes a while for a younger person to be able to have impressive numbers. When we were for a big company, man, you have impressive numbers within 6 months, at least way more impressive than that customer has to share. And you had a story about skydiving you wanted to share. So
yeah, so I'll go back to skydiving and I'll come back to what you're talking about with trust and kind of accountability and such. So when I went on my first skydive, I didn't ask how long you've been here, how many jumps you had, but I was talking to him and I knew I was with a pro. But I was still really scared. Like I still remember that I've done 7 skydives. I remember every one of them, but I remember that first one the most. And as we were flying up there, this guy had started a company, similar story what you talked about. He's been doing it for years, but he fell asleep on the flight up. He took a little cat nap, and I have never been able to fall asleep being stressed out. So like he was so calm and so cool and so collected. And he was such an incredible insider on this particular thing that he was somebody who I just immediately trusted. So I think we've reached a place in our society where we question authority. There's a famous clip going around the internet where Dave Chappelle went on the Good Morning America and George Stephanopoulos like went after him. And if you ever see that clip, it's like what Chappelle says is the reason we no longer trust the media is because you guys act like insiders and you don't treat us fairly and you're coming off of your perch. Most people who we talk to go to Zillow for their information.
Yeah, they get a Zestimate. Yeah.
So one of the things that we talked about today is we usually bring what we call the dog. It's a low dollar comp that shows you like this is really your market. And what I leaned into is if I'm on a sales pitch, I have a certain way to go about it. But as an advisor, what I said is, look, what do you think the house is worth? How'd you get here? Well, the Zestimate tells me it's worth this. Well, I have done 350 million and I have access to information you don't have. I'm sure it's disappointing to be misled by something like Zillow, but here are 3 comps from the MLS that you must be a professional realtor to get access to, which the public doesn't get to see. These are the real numbers. So you make them an insider into what's happening and you show them the information. It's the opposite. Most people feel marginalized and taken advantage of. So you show them the inside, but you do it in a way of, I am coming from a place of authority. And not only am I coming from a place of authority, I have this data that you don't have access to. And let me show it to you as a proof source. Like it's printed, it's dated, it's legit. You can double check me, but here's the data. And if you present it that way, it's like, okay, we've taken the emotion out. We've gotten a fact source. I have a trustworthy person. Now it comes down to what are you going to do with the money, which I think you and I both look at. You got the people who want to move into the house. I got the people who want to sell it, but they're both doing it from a needs perspective of what they want to do next.
Yeah. Like if I were coaching your leads team, I would spend as much time until you make me stop asking about why are you selling? What would you do with the money? What are you hoping to do with the money? Just like if you're selling a house, on the other side, you have a sales team that sell houses. What are you going to do in the house? Why do you want to move? What are you trying to do? That's advising. That's trying to dig into a little bit. And going back to just people are just overwhelmed with information today. Frankie, are you a big fan of Barry Schwartz? May the Schwartz be with you.
Who's
behavioral psychologist Barry Schwartz? Are you a big fan of his?
Oh,
is he on your
he's on my Mount Rushmore of all
Mount Rushmore of favorite people you follow, along with Bill Cosby and who's the creep you keep quoting that talks about doing I'll stop. So anyway, Barry Schwartz came up with something called the paradox of choice. Paradox of choice.
I'd like everyone to know this is an unpaid role for me. Unpaid.
The cause. I got Frank for his 50th birthday a signed photo of Cosby, and he's got it hanging in his office. He freaking loves the guy. Anyway, Barry Schwartz, paradox of choice. So
Ian's prized possession is his invitation to Epstein Island that he has framed in his office right next to Braveheart.
Can we move on? I am trying to be serious now. I'm moved into serious.
Tit for tat, pal.
We only joke around when it's at your expense.
I'm familiar with the way you have this set up.
Barry Schwartz says that the more options we have, the less happy we are. So
May the Schwartz be with you.
May the Schwartz be with you. So an example of that would be you go to a restaurant like Cheesecake Factory that's got 20 pages on the menu.
Yeah.
And you're overwhelmed. They're just page after page after page. Silver Diner's like that. When I go to Silver Diner, I want to eat the whole menu. And what happens is in your mind, you have like 8 things and you ask the waitress, like, are the ribs good or the burger or this salmon salad looks great or the crab cakes? and you end up choosing one.
They're a vendor.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And then you always feel a little bit of remorse. I should have got this. I should have got this. Versus you go to a great steakhouse and it's got a one-page menu with 12 cuts of meat. You're never upset because your choices were limited. So you can't feel regret that you possibly made a bad decision. When buyers come in today, they have so much information on their mind that they're just overinformed and they get into this paralysis of thinking about interest rates in the Middle East and the stock market and the economy and our price is going to drop. And all of that stuff, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it's not the reason they came to look at a house. It's not the reason they called to talk to Cava companies about selling their house. They had a vision of what they would do with the money. Now, they might have thought it's 200 and Frank thinks it's 100 or 150, but they have a vision of what they want to do with the money, just like people who come into a model home have a vision of how their life would be better living in a different place. And that's the job of an advisor and not a vendor, is to take a very overwhelmed person with too much information on their mind and take that stress away by simplifying their why, trying to get to it. And that's really the big difference. If I take a vendor mindset is like a tour guide. I think about a vendor, Frankie, when we were younger and we went to Bally Fitness or a new gym and they had people they called sales reps. I guess they were paid commission. But what do? They walked you around. Here's where the benches are. Here's the cardio area. Let me show you the bathrooms. Here's where you can get some towels. Over here you can buy protein. Like, sure, they called themselves sales reps. They were tour guides. They were obsessed with what is, here's the machines we have. Here's the cardio. Here's where the bathrooms are. That's very feature focused. And I see this with sales reps in new home construction. It is very square foot based and it is very community based. And here's our amenities and here's the price and here's the incentive we're giving. And they let the customer with a vendor lets the customer lead. A vendor has the customer asking all the questions. Think about going back to my gym example.
The consultant, you're saying a vendor. A vendor doesn't. The vendor doesn't let them lead. The consultant lets them lead.
No. With a vendor, the customer is doing all the question asking.
Sure.
So think about it. When you're getting a tour, hey, what about the bathrooms? Do you have a steam room? You're asking all the questions and they're just answering. An advisor is asking the questions of the customer, right? Like if that tour guide, let's take the gym for an example, whether it's a good example or not. If it was really an advisor, it'd be like, what kind of stuff do you like to do? Are you a free weight guy? Are you into cardio? What time do you usually work out? Yeah, we're a lot less busy at 5 a.m. when you're saying you're working out. You're here at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's our busiest time. But if you do 5 a.m., I work then, man, it's a great time to come in here and look. And by the way, your code can get you in here an hour before we have it staffed. So that's advising, right? That's the difference. But the vendor mindset is very transactional. Everything's price, everything's incentive. They want to get to price right away. They let the customer drag them into a price conversation right away before they've spent any time trying to understand the why. And that's the difference with the advisor. The advisor is obsessed with why you want to sell this house and what you're going to do with the money. They will ask so many questions that they know inside and out, whether they think it's 200,000 or Frank is willing to give 100. I at least want to know what you would do with 100,000 if we were to come to it. What would you do with it? How would it make your life better? What would you do differently if you had that $100,000? And how soon would you start doing it? Just like if you buy the house, how does your life get better? What is it? It's more of a strategic partner of vendor is into what, advisor is into why.
Do you know what my favorite part of sales was? Like when I was doing sales, I was in a model or doing any kind of sales.
No, I don't.
So it was steering a conversation through a series of questions. And what I try to bring to my company is the same thing. I was selling houses before, I'm buying them now. But we have 2 rules on every appointment. Number 1, be invited to sit. And number 2 is don't leave without offering a contract or a price to purchase the house. So they're simple rules, but they're easy to remember. And they're rules that we put in place for these reasons. Rule number 1, be invited to sit. If you're asking enough questions and you seem as if you're interested in the person, you lean in, your body language says, I'm here for you. I like people to leave their cell phones in the car, make sure that they know that I'm here for you. That's it. We lean in. If someone trusts that you're there and you're listening and you're prioritizing them, they're going to offer you a seat. They're going to say, stay a while, talk to me more. Let me get the questions I need off my chest to figure out how to help satisfy your wants, needs, and desires. And if you have earned the right to sit, you've most likely earned the right to leave a contract because you've gotten around the needs and all the drivers that are important to this person that you can then leave the contract. I didn't just mail you a contract. I literally handed it to you at the end of our transaction or our conversation because of the fact that I've earned the right to do so. But it's the simplest thing is you're just prioritizing the person you're working with and you're asking them to guide you. I think a good sales transaction is very similar to a good interview. An interview, you're getting all the things out of the person you need, but you're sitting, I take notes, but I just ask a bunch of questions and let people go. But I'm listening to all types of different things because ultimately, if you're any good and I want you to work here, then it comes on to me to sell you on why this is the spot for you. But I've let you tell me what's important, what your strengths are, what your limitations are, what you get excited about. Like those are the things that you're listening for dynamically and you're paying attention to it. The other thing that I would say in this whole process is if you read off a script, you're not very good. You should inherently know the conversations that and the questions that are going to lead you towards what it is you're ultimately trying to do, which is satisfy this person's needs. Like, why did you come in here? Why did you call me? Let me ask questions that get at that fact pretty quickly.
Overly scripted sales forces are not effective.
Nope.
They're not. They're trying to fit square pegs into round holes. If you're going to practice anything with your sales force, practice the quality of questions that they ask. And I love your interview example. I'm so deflated when I'm interviewing a candidate that I'm looking to hire and I ask them if they have any questions for me and they don't. You have no curiosity. You have no interest. You're not an advisor. You're telling me in the interview that you're just an employee. You're just a vendor. You're not interested in making things better. That tells me a lot about your growth mindset. That tells me how coachable you are, a lot of those things. And one thing that Frank just talked about, and I'll share my screen real quick if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going back to that equation again. Credibility, trust equals credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. What Frank was just talking about was the second piece, intimacy. He wants to make them comfortable. He talks with his soft voice. I'm putting my cell phone away in my truck. Intimacy is, have you created a safe place for buyers to confess, to talk about their emotions, talk about fears, to talk about friction they might be having with their family, right? All of those things matter. The credibility, I've done this much in real estate. The intimacy, I'm creating a safe place for you. And reliability is more about follow-up. Do I do what I say? And when I say divided by self-orientation, how selfish are you? Selfishness can hurt all of that trust. So when you put that underneath, if your self-orientation is low, your trust stays high. But if the customer smells that you're in it for a commission, you kill all of that stuff up on the top that we're talking about. And when we talk about an advisor versus a vendor, price becomes more important the less of this digging and homework that you do. And so I had a sales rep who was selling in a community in the South, and it's warmer there, it's nicer there, and they were stuck. They were kind of stuck on price, and the customer wasn't moving forward. And so I started just asking this rep a little bit about the customer. Why are they moving? Well, they live in New Jersey. Okay, well, why do they want to be down there? Well, their kids and their grandkids live in the South. They live far away. And I said, okay, did you get any nuggets on like what that feels like to have your grandparents, your grandkids separated by a 2-hour flight? And I got a nugget that I thought was great. It was every time we get pictures of our grandkids, we feel like they're 3 inches taller. They're growing up so fast. And yet you're not buying. How much taller? And this is what I asked the sales rep, how much taller do those kids need to be before you buy? Like, are you going to say, well, the kids are now all 6 feet tall and looking down on us, but we did wait a couple years and interest rates came down to 5.5. What are we talking about? You've got to lean in. An advisor needs to lean in and help. And this couple was focused on, well, what if price drops more in Florida? What if interest rates, go down and we did this too early? What if the stock market drops? What if And they had all these, this is again, analysis paralysis. This is Barry Schwartz be with you, paradox of choice. Too many different things in their head when really at the end of the day, we're not going to live forever. Get down there and don't waste another month. Get down there and live near the grandkids and watch them grow up. Quit worrying about all the other stuff. But when you just add the grandkids in with all those other things, it gets lumped together and it's like a busy menu that you don't know what to order from.
My wife still makes fun of me from the beginning when we first met because she'll tell me something and it goes against all of my years of being single and dating other people. Like everything she tells me just seems like it's betraying what I've learned. And what my wife will do is she just comes out and says, do this and I will be happy. My wife is an anomaly. No one else does that. What everybody else does is they tell you something, but they mean something else. I want the house, but I really want to be closer to my grandkids. I want the house, but I want to do this. What you have to do is you have to find the right voice for yourself. I sell from a place of authority and competence, but I slow myself down to listen to you so you'll understand that I remember different facts. I pay attention to things like the color of your kid's soccer jersey or little obscure things. So that's how my brain works. And I make you understand, and I didn't realize this till much later, that I'm good at listening and paying attention to things that make you feel like a priority. So if I prioritize you and get you to the place where you are the star of this conversation, you then feel comfortable telling me what's the real reason you're in my model home or what's the real reason I'm in your house to buy it. That's called the need behind the need. The need behind the need is what leads to the sale. But you got to uncover that need slowly, carefully, and patiently. And then you have to get back up around it to understand what all the information is that is leading this person to ultimately want to have what it is that you're selling. That is how you do consultation. And ultimately, a sale is not a sale. It's just a series of nods that become an of course.
I love that. I get asked frequently, Frankie, about where rates are going as if I frickin' know just because I worked in a mortgage company for 13 years. But I get asked it a lot of, you think rates are going down? You think they're going up? Well, and I don't know, I guess I'm just conditioned on this because I was asked that so much forever that I never really answer it. I'm always like, well, why are you asking? Are you thinking about buying a house or something? Are you thinking of, yeah, we're thinking about selling and buying a different house, but we sure would like it if rates were a little lower. And okay, well, why are you? I do the same thing, even though I'm not selling anything. Like before I give you an answer on what I think rates are going to do, I sure would like to know why the hell you care. And, what's wrong with your current situation? Well, the kids have gotten bigger and, we want to be a little bit closer to school so the kids can just go by themselves and we don't have to drive them as much. And, you kind of listen to a lot of this and you're like, well, how much of that are you willing to put up with? And the interesting thing about interest rates, because they're getting dragged into the housing conversation often right now. But if interest rates are 6.5% right now and someone's saying, well, I'd like to wait until they're lower. Okay, well, if rates drop from 6.5 to 4.5% in the next 2 years, are you going to feel like you made a good move by waiting? Yeah. Okay, but if they're at 4.5,
what cost?
If they're 4.5 versus 6.5, how much more spending power does that give the general public? Well, I don't know. Well, you're looking at $1 million house. You just told me that. Well, a 6.5% rate that could buy a million house, a 4.5 could buy $1.2 million, $1.3 million. And when the general public all has an extra 20%, 25% of spending power, what do you think builders are going to do? They're going to raise their prices. And so you're going to wait and you're going to get 4.5%, but you're going to pay $1.2 million for that house. Would you rather wait and pay more for the house or buy it now, take the higher interest rate, and in 2 years when rates drop to 4.5, you get to refi? You don't get to refi your house. You can refi your rate. And so that's consulting. That's just getting them to see the ramifications of their actions and also showing them the cost of waiting. That is so important, whether you're buying real estate like Frank or whether you are selling. Here's the cost of waiting and missing right now. And the cost of the New Jersey people is you missed 2 years of your grandkids growing up. What's that worth to you? You put a dollar amount on that? But in 20 years, when you look back, what would you give to have your kids when they were 11 and 12? What would you give to have those 2 years back?
If I had a time machine that could bring you back 2 years, what would you pay for it? It's a lot more than the difference in rate.
How many times have you and I talked since my dad passed away, how much money I would give for a week with that dude?
Yeah.
It's 7 figures. It's 8 figures. I'd give anything, for that. If I had a chance to live closer to my dad or to bring him closer today and he was around, I wouldn't be negotiating price. But it's the same thing with parents or grandparents that want to be near other kids. You got to help them see the cost of inaction. That's what an advisor does. A vendor doesn't do that. A vendor goes and talks to their manager and says, can you drop the price 50 grand? We got to match what Beezer Homes is doing. We got to match what Toll Brothers is doing. Okay, that's not advising. You're a vendor.
I'm going to close with this because we got a hard out. So we used to have this thing called a $1,000 price match guarantee. And what it is we would hand you this price match guarantee and say, we'll pay you $1,000 more than anybody else. And I told everybody, fucking rip them up, throw them out. If you want to get into a price conversation, sell to somebody else. I'm not here to have a price conversation with you. We are the biggest and best in our marketplace for the reason that we prioritize you, the seller, and we come up with solutions that mean the most to you. And we satisfy the most sellers or everybody else wouldn't be chasing us. So what I want to make sure of is in this process, if this comes down to price, go elsewhere. But if it's the other things that you want to satisfy, you want to make sure that are really important to you that we take care of, sell to us. And if number is part of that, we can certainly listen, but we're not going to get the last bite at the apple. We don't get into a bidding war. We stand alone on our service. And if you have that, like I know what we offer and I feel comfortable with that takeaway because of the fact that we have done the work, we have listened, and we have satisfied the needs that will deserve the ability to win the contract.
I will wrap on your wrap with that's not just bullshit money into Frank's pocket either. What I would also say on top of that, when you say we don't negotiate, there's a reason why we're more expensive. Because when we tell you it's going to be a smoother transaction, there's a cost to me making sure you get a smoother transaction. I have multiple departments that will be fixated on making sure that you are happy with this transaction, that it happens fast, that it happens easy, that you get a check as promised. I don't bait and switch like some people do. Anyone who is going to try to give you some cheaper deal, there is going to be a cost to you associated with that, and there is going to be risk associated. I promise you I'm going to take that risk away, but I have to charge for it because I have to staff for it. That's a real expense that I do. So I think that's a real thing that you can talk about. And when you're an advisor and you have that trust, you can get to a place where you are talking about things like that. You are talking about the extra value and the cost associated from a business perspective of delivering that kind of value.
You've earned the right to have an honest conversation.
Yep. And we always hope to deliver great value to all of our podcast listeners. So thank you very much for all of you that listen to us. And Frank is really trying to clean up his language. We hope you're noticing. If you are new, hit that notification button, hit that follow button, mash that like, give us a 5-star review, and tell all of your friends about Let Me Speak to a Manager podcast because we are not vendors. We are advisors to all of you. Frankie, great seeing you, buddy.
Peace out, brother.